guys, and welcome back to the Dr. Cecilia Peterson podcast. My name is Mia at Dr. Peterson on all social media platforms. And I'm very excited to be back on the podcast in general, just because we took a little bit of a long hiatus because of my voice issues. But I'm thrilled to be back making more episodes. And this episode involves a guest, which I'm very excited about. We have Blake here, who is at Saw Source. And I'm very excited to have Blake on my podcast because I think he is a very, very talented content creator. His page is incredibly varied and has a lot of sort of different types of Saw content. Blake touches on all the Saw movies, not just one particular Saw movie, and posts every single day, which is so impressive and amazing. And Blake was also Dr. Andrews in the PetersonProject.net short film. And Blake honestly was one of the first people I met when I joined this this social media platform in October. And he is so incredibly nice and he was so welcoming. We've done several collabs. And we're just going to talk all things Saw, content creation, Saw 11, Saw X, kind of these different topics that come up. So I'm very excited to welcome Blake. Welcome, Blake, to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
Oh my gosh, of course. You deserve nothing but the most elaborate introduction. I love it. So the first thing I want to ask you, Blake, so the first kind of set of chatty questions I have for you is sort of because your audience will probably know, but my audience may not know. I'd love to know how you, because I met you when you'd already started your page, how you started your page, because I know you kind of started as a Scream plus Saw, doing a little bit of both, and then that shifted at some point. Tell us, how this idea came to mind and what kind of motivated you or inspired you to start a fan page and all that jazz.
Oh, that is a lovely question. Well, first I was a Scream fan page, as you stated. I was a Scream fan page for a while, but I was like not posting that often, but I was still posting sometimes, you know what I mean? And like I've always been a fan of Saw. Like there's multiple Saw accounts I follow on here, and like when I was just a Scream account. And like I guess I just like I watched Saw 5 one day and I was like, yeah, I think I want to change it to a Saw fan page, and that's what I did because Saw has always been a part of my life. Like when I was a kid, I was terrified of it, and now as an adult, well, not an adult, like a young adult, we'll say, I'm like more into the story, and like I get like everything behind it, like Saw 6, like all the medical stuff. I love the story of the movies, so like, and it's just fun being here. You know what I mean? The community is just really strong and nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, and I think too, it's funny. I feel like Saw and Scream weirdly have a lot of crossover despite them being very different franchises. So I feel like, I know you don't do Scream now, but it's interesting that because I met you when you were still doing both, and I was kind of like, oh wow, like this is cool to have like two franchises that like kind of aren't related at all yet have so much in common. So that's really, really cool. And then you shifted to mostly or exclusively Saw content not too long ago. I'm trying to remember when that was, but I cannot remember. Unfortunately, it was not too long ago though. How has that been for you? As you and I are both daily posters, so one thing I want to touch on too is like, how has that been for you, and what is it like posting daily? Because I have thoughts on it, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Oh, here we go. Let me tell you. All right, guys, here we go.
Right.
Daily posting is like really hard. Like it's very fun, but also very challenging because like, especially if you have things going on in your life, like there's been multiple times I have a very bad sleep schedule where I've just overslept posts and I'm just like, damn it, because like 4 p.m. EST is my time. That's my time. So when I miss it, I'm like, damn. I get mad and everything. I'm just like, oh. But daily posting has been fun. Today, when I post at 4 o'clock in a couple of hours, it'll be my 200th daily post, 200 days in a row.
Woo!
Which is just absolutely crazy. But I love daily posting. I found it to be not that challenging at all and very exciting because, as you stated before, like a lot of Scream fans are Saw fans. Like they're kind of like interlinked together. So I was like, if I switch to Saw, I know I'm not going to lose that many people. And not only that, but there was a lot of controversy going around at Scream at that time.
Oh
So
yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm just gonna move on from that. Like I'm just gonna go to Saw. But like
Yeah.
still sometimes I look back because I still follow a lot of people in the fan pages, like a lot of people in the Screen fandom. And like I'll see stuff and I'll be like, that's really cool. And I know if I was like still in the fandom, I could be able to do like a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking to exclusively Saw now because I'm more interested in the Saw, obviously.
Yeah. So posting, I totally agree. Posting daily is really hard. I find it to be very much a double-edged sort of, not double-edged sword, but kind of very like a dual experience of it's really fun and it's really exciting. And then some days it's really challenging, especially when me, I try to plan my content several weeks in advance, but then within that I flex a bit. And then sometimes like I'll just like be halfway through my day and I'll be like, oh my God, I didn't post today. So it's like so rewarding, I think, but it's like really hard. And one of the reasons I wanted to touch on this with both of our audiences is just because I think, I get DMs often, people being like, what it's like doing these sorts of things, or like how I find the inspiration to daily post. And I think maybe you can speak to this too, but I think part of it too is like when you get in the habit of doing it, it's almost like weird to not do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's just like it's a part of my day now. Like if I don't do it, then my day doesn't really feel complete anymore. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like become part of my day.
Yeah, like any sort of other habit, like going to the gym or like drinking coffee or like
Yeah,
totally.
absolutely.
Let's kind of jump forward in the Saw timeline, specifically to Saw X. I would like to kind of ask your thoughts on this because it is the newest franchise, or it's the newest franchise, sorry, it's the newest film in the franchise.
Hmm.
And, I feel like there were a lot of polarizing opinions on Saw X. It obviously got really good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I would say majority of the fandom likes it a lot. However, some people are like, oh my God, like bar none, it's my favorite Saw film to date. Other people are like, it's more in the middle of their ranking. Where does Saw X fall for you, and why?
Ooh, you got some good questions. You are a great podcast host.
Thank you.
Saw X is like you definitely in I would like to say my top five. Definitely my top five. I feel like it was just like a good shot of adrenaline straight into the series because if we want to be honest, Saw 8 and Saw 9, Jigsaw and Spiral respectively, like they didn't do so hot and they weren't like well received in the Saw fandom. Like now if you look at Saw X, like it's more welcome and everybody sort of loves it. Like obviously it has its haters, it has its diehards, and it has its in the middle, but like it was welcomed. Like while
Yeah.
Jigsaw and Spiral really weren't. So I definitely think it's in my top five.
And I think too, it was so apparent that there was so much thought put into it, whether it was the traps or the storyline, and obviously with like, Kevin at the front of the scene, like makes sense. And then, we have this introduction of Cecilia who's like brand new and all these things. But if Saw X is in your top five, what are your other Saw films and kind of your like holy, like upper trinity?
My number one all time favorite Saw movie is Saw 3. Everybody knows this. Anybody that slightly knows me knows that Saw 3 is my number one. I put a crown on that movie. I love that movie so much. Which I found out it's kind of decisive in the Saw fandom. Not everybody likes Saw 3, but everybody loves Saw 2, which Saw 2 is definitely my top five too. But my holy grail, my number one, will always be Saw 3.
Why? Can I ask why? Like, what about it is like kind of for you puts it in that number one spot?
Amanda Young.
Good answer. All right, thank you guys so much. Period.
Just like everybody brings their all to that.
Yes.
Behind off. Tobin might be on his deathbed, but he's still acting his ass off. Like everybody's just like giving it their all. And like I love that movie so much. The traps are brutal if you want to bring up the traps. The rack is absolutely hard to watch. I was telling one of our close friends, Emma, if anybody doesn't know who that is, that's at Strawberry Saw Girl, that like I'm scared of bones breaking. And so when I see that trap, I'm just like, oh, I can't. I have to look away. I hate it. But there's so many good traps in that film. And like the story and just like it captivating with so many deaths. Oh, it's incredible. I love it.
Is that like your number one trap of all time, The Rock, or do you have a different number one trap?
I'd say The Rock is up there with like the most brutal traps, like that
Yeah.
I can like hardly watch, and also one of my favorite. But like the reverse bears trap's also up there is like one of my favorites because it's everybody's favorite. Let's be real here.
And also, I think too, like, you know how when you watch a film or have an experience in life and you wish that you could go back in time and like have that first viewing, but you never can. It's just one and done. Like, that's how I feel with the Saw movies. Like, I wish I could go back in time and remember what my reaction was like when Tobin got off the floor in the OG Saw, or like,
Oh yeah, or like when Lawrence is revealed as an apprentice in Saw 7.
yes,
Absolutely incredible.
I want to touch on the sad elephant in the room, Saw 11. So obviously,
here we go.
If someone
get your tissues ready, folks.
No, literally, I'm literally still in mourning. If someone's listening to this and by some weird stroke of luck, you don't know about the news of Saw 11, I will just publicly say, Lionsgate, and then another news source, I can't remember, in this Deadline, maybe, I think, both publicly announced that Saw 11 has been delayed an entire year, so it's coming out. Do you remember the exact date? September
26, 2025. So we'll get it a day earlier, but still a year.
They were like, okay, you guys, we'll bump it up one day to soften the blow. Delay aside, because that does suck and it is sad. Excluding all very little knowledge we have about Saw 11, or I mean, you can include it if you want, but what would be sort of like your dream Saw 11 plot? Whether there's like a plot A, a plot B, just one plot, like anything.
My plot would be, I've said this since the day they announced Saw 11. I said this probably when Saw X came out, and I knew they were going to make a Saw 11. Basically, I want it in between 2 and 3. I want John in the wheelchair like he's shown in Saw 6, and I want him to make Amanda and Hoffman do a game. I don't know what the game will be about or anything, but that's what I want. And we'll have to inject Cecilia in there, obviously, because we need some Cecilia in our lives. Everybody loves Cecilia. We got to pay him enough, but I need him. I need Carrie Elwes as Dr. Gordon in a post-credit scene. That's what I need. The only little bit that we got of Mark and Amanda was in Saw 6. Like, that's all we ever seen them really interact.
Right.
Like, I feel like it would just be so great to see them, like, just throw snarky comments at each other. And, like, I just want to see him, excuse my language, I just want to see her bitch slap him right across his face. That's honestly, what I want.
Oh my God, that would be so iconic.
And I just want John in the background, like, what are my children doing? Like, as they're arguing.
He's just in his wheelchair, like, oh my fucking God.
He's sucking down his oxygen. He's like, what's going on?
What is wrong with you? Obviously, it probably goes without being said that, like, what if someone listening to this is like, does she like Cecilia? Like, I'm not sure. Never. If Cecilia is in it, like, she's totally going to die. There is no way you a Saw trap and you make it like another movie. In this franchise, no one lasts very long. I mean, even Jill Tuck got reverse bear trapped, So
yeah, I mean, think about it. Amanda and John realistically only lasted 3 movies. They died in the third one.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. In fact, I didn't even anticipate Cecilia making it to the end. Like, when the gas trap started and I saw the movie for the first time, I was like, oh, Parker's gonna outlive this. And then I should have had more faith in my favorite villain. I was like, oh, Parker's got this. And I was like, oh no, he does not. Obviously, you are a big, Amanda Shawnee fan. You also run some like Amanda and Shawnee pages. Besides Amanda, do you have like a big comfort character from the series to tell our audience about?
That's a good question. I guess my second in line will just be John. Like, he's definitely he's just my sweet murderous grandpa. You know what I mean? Like, my comfort character. And like probably right behind him is like Jill Tuck. But like,
yes,
Amanda's number one. Nobody could be that.
So I have one more question as we kind of wrap up here, and it's a really deep one. So if you'd rather me ask you something more silly, I'm happy to do so, but I feel like you might like this question. So because you've like seen this franchise so many times. So within this franchise, I think this idea of evil is really nuanced and gray because most people in this franchise like aren't really technically good people, right? The people in the traps, John, his apprentices, like with the exception of the minors that are a part of the trap, I feel like everyone has like issues or different varying levels of wickedness. So I'm curious for you in thinking of like these three very different types of evil people and the kind of wickedness they have. Is there one that stands out to you as being quote unquote the worst, or do you feel like they're just all different in different ways or toxic in different ways? And if you want to expel more on that, you can.
I feel like if we're talking like the worst of the worst characters, I know a lot of people will say Ivan, which I agree.
Oh, I forgot about
like,
Ivan. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's second, but I'm like very controversially, I'm gonna put Cecilia above him. I think Cecilia is one of the worst, like not worst acted, just like one of the horriblest human
Yeah.
beings in this franchise. Like she's absolutely terrible. She ruins so many lives and everything, and like she's just like her character is just like so evil and like so vindictive and like everything. Just like I feel like she's the number one most worst person
Ooh,
in the
I
franchise.
love this answer as a Cecilia stan. Like, but I love that you say that because also if we think about it, right, Cecilia is like one of the few people we've seen that's such a huge threat to John, in addition to her wickedness. And obviously John always has the upper hand, as we know. But you know, and I will never get over that this was cut from the movie, that whole inner dialogue with them about like, you know, and she's like, you're a psychopath. I'm not a psychopath. My dad did this. You're a murderer. And then he's like, no, I'm a healer. Like that was all cut from the film. And I just feel like that was such a great exploration of sort of them trying to justify their own things. So if we're going to compare John and Cecilia, I'm really pushing this question, but your response is so good. So if we're kind of like having Cecilia in one column and John in one column, do you feel like Cecilia has this more kind of like pure evil and John has more of like he's experienced so much trauma and he's trying to just justify the world?
No matter which way you spin it, no matter how you put it, Cecilia is pure evil, period. Yes. End of discussion. Yes. But if you want to look at John and maybe if you can twist yourself just a little bit, you can see where he's coming from. His intentions are like not pure, but like he wants to help people, but he's doing it completely, absolutely wrong. He's doing it wrong. Absolutely wrong. Yeah. Like he thinks, oh, I put you in this trap, you survive. Congratulations. Now you love living. Like that's not how it works. You can't, that's not how it works. I feel like his intentions are pure in his mind, but he's doing it completely wrong. Like, why not just pay for their therapy or something, you know? Like, but like, no matter which way you spin it, Cecilia is completely evil.
I agree.
I feel like there's just no excuse for her behavior. No matter which way you spin it, there's no excuse for her behavior. Taking, like, giving somebody hope, taking their money for that, and then just letting them die, like, after giving them this false treatment is the most disgusting thing you could ever do. And that's why I think she's the worst character in the franchise. Not the worst acted, the most beautifully acted, but the worst character in the franchise.
Yes, no, absolutely. And the thing is too, is she knows it. And that's what's even more disturbing. Like with John, there's this sense of like inner justification that he's like, well, I'm doing this because I think it's this just belief in my heart or whatever. Where Cecilia does not give a flying fuck. Like she knows she's horrid and awful and doesn't care. It's always the loveliest people that play the most fucked up characters.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, how does this happen? My followers, please don't unfollow me for this, but like I'm low-key rooting for Amanda, where we get like Amanda's first unbeatable trap as Cecilia, and we see like some real fucked up shit. Like that would be the dream. Well, not that sounds really bad. Like I will cry when Cecilia dies. I'm a huge Cecilia stan, but like, but also she's horrible. And like to get away, I mean, she didn't get her money back, but because Carlos has it, but to get away with, what can we expect from you in the future?
I guess you can expect like just more Saw content, man. Like that's what I'm gonna continue.
Fabulous. And
give as much as I can.
Yeah, amazing.
Formats and stuff.
Yeah, and I also would like to say to the public, because both of our audiences, I think, are going to listen to this. For my audience, Blake posts a really cool variety of stuff. It's like a mix of, posters, BTS, like kind of goofy pictures, serious pictures, interviews. Blake and I did a collab about Kevin Greuter a couple weeks or months ago, maybe at this point. It's really varied content, which is really awesome. And it's also very like easily digestible. And it's and Blake's persistence and dedication and passion for his page is extremely obvious in the best way possible. Now with Saw 11 being delayed, lots of content. It's going to be great.
That's so upsetting.
I know. It's like I say it and I feel my whole heart just like sink to my chair. I'm like,
that would have gave us like so much content. Think about it, Mia.
No,
like the trailer came out, like that would have gave us so much content. Now I'm kind of like, if you want me to be honest with the podcast, I'm like kind of struggling to find stuff. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I am too.
Like,
yeah.
Like it's not easy posting daily, guys.
Okay, we're good. We're gonna cook. We're good.
Yeah, we're gonna cook.
We're gonna cook. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to Blake for being on the pod. This was so much fun. Oh my gosh. You were a wonderful guest. Do you have any closing thoughts or statements?
No, not really. Just thank you for having me. I love your page. I love you. You're an amazing human being. We all love you. It's like keep shining, man.
Thank you. Well, it was a joy. I adore you too. It was a joy to have you on here. All of you who are listening, if you want to be on my podcast, all you have to do is fill out a little form in the link in my bio. Now that my voice is feeling a little bit better, I can not record these constantly, but I'm kind of back in the game with these. I would love to have more guests because it's easier to have two people than one.
If this one goes well, guys, if you want to see us get back on here again and talk again, I would love that.
Oh, yes. Please engage with this. You can subscribe to the pod on Spotify too, tag us and all that stuff. Like we'd love to do this again, and we can have a more specified topic if people want. So for my followers, Blake is at SawSource. For Blake's followers, if you don't follow me, mine is at Dr. Dot. Please do not forget the dot. Cecilia Peterson, pretty straightforward handles. We will be at you with our daily content. And thank you all for listening if you made it this far. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Later, guys.